Hello, hello. Welcome back to Let's Vibe Podcast, everyone. We have a special episode today because today is my birthday. It is my 29th birthday, and I honestly can't believe I'm saying that this is now me entering my final birthday of my 20s. And some of you guys also might be surprised about my age. I tell people my age and they're like, wait, what? I thought you were 24 or 25. And honestly, like mentally, I still feel that age. Like I turned 25 during the pandemic and I feel like I've kind of like stayed that age, even though I have definitely been aging and getting older. But it is really crazy to think that, today I am 29 years old. So we are doing a special little birthday episode. Tomorrow, I'm actually going to be putting out the Project Glow recap. So stay tuned for that. And we'll be back to like our normal activities. But I also wanted to start including more of, the personal development content and just more reflective kind of content and things like that within my podcast that might be, supportive and helpful for you. A lot of my followers are either slightly older than me or they are my age or they're a lot younger. I feel like I do have a little bit of a younger audience. And then I also do have a couple, people who are older as me, but I do feel like we can all learn and take from one another. And the beautiful thing about life is that, some people have gone through things that you're currently experiencing, and we can all just help each other out and guide each other home in a way. If, you believe in God, source, the universe, right? We're all just here to collectively help each other out. And so that's why I want to do more content like this. And I figured, why not kick it off instead of doing 29 lessons for 29 years of life, because I feel like we would be here forever. And I have to go to work. I am recording this literally right before I go to work. The grind never stops, you guys, not even on my birthday. But I thought I would do 9 lessons for 29 years of life. So I really sat down and reflected on, not even just the past 29 years, but I really reflected on the past year. If you guys listen to the Saturn retrograde life update episode I did, like a lot of stuff happened in 28. And I'm feeling just very grateful. And I did an Instagram post just talking about how I really do feel like I am the phoenix just rising from the ashes coming into this birthday. And I actually have a phoenix tattoo, like the bird, on my upper back. And it just is really symbolic. It's also why I have a butterfly. I am just so deeply attuned to transformation. And I know that the way this past year went was so divine and aligned, and it needed to happen because I'm standing here today with all of the lessons, all of the growth, and just, the people that are meant to be in my life right now and all of the things that have come. Like, it's all just so divinely planned, and it was meant to happen, and it needed to happen. And even though there's some grief with that because there's some people that didn't come along, or I went through a lot of like emotional pain to get here, I think I would do it all over again, what I experienced in 28. And I feel like when I'm 60 years old, I'm going to look back at 28 and be like, that was the year that changed everything. And one of my mentors, her name's Kristen Such, she posted a reel yesterday, and it was 3 signs that you've jumped timelines, right? We talk a lot in the spiritual community about quantum leaps and all of those things and jumping timelines. And in those 3 signs, it was, some of the things that can tell you are in a new timeline, you're in a new chapter. And I have been feeling this and saying it from the mountaintops that, a cycle has ended, a new chapter has begun. My friend Kaylani told me I started a whole new book. Like, we're not even in the same book. And it really is because I have, new plot lines, new characters, like all of these people coming into my life and all of these new experiences happening that, had I stayed where I was in 28, that might have never happened. And sometimes you need those pushes and those big catalysts in order for these changes to happen. And I really do feel like I'm on that path. And I don't really talk too much about the darker parts of last year, but that birthday last year, I was depressed. I was lost. I was stuck. I didn't feel even worthy of celebrating my birthday, and not necessarily from like, I didn't feel like I wanted to be alive, like not necessarily from that point of view, but I just didn't feel like I was worth celebrating and my birthday was worth celebrating because I was so in the thick of struggling in my business and in my life and in my relationship and all of these things. And I wasn't speaking up and I was just bottling it up. You know what I mean? And if there's anything that I can really celebrate is that I know who I am. I know where I'm going, and I feel like I am able to express myself and be myself and just really love myself and choose myself. And a lot of the things that happened this past year are the reason for that. And if that's what I get from, this past year, then I think that's worth celebrating for. So that's my little spiel about everything. But I'd love to just, share some of these lessons, and maybe some of them resonate for you. And of course, I'm going to be, celebrating this last year of my 20s, and then I will be 30 and I will be so much more wiser and can really look back at a whole decade of things, because it has been a journey. And there's this one quote I saw on my birthday a couple years ago where it's like, yes, I'm turning 29, but I'm also bringing along, the 14-year-old version of me, the 21-year-old version of me, and all of that. And I feel like as I'm approaching 30, I can look back at all those separate 20 versions of me, the 20, the 21-year-old, 22-year-old, and so on and so forth. And so it really is that culmination and celebration of all of those versions that I once was on this birthday. So I'm definitely in my retrospective feels, and that's why I wanted to do this episode. And that's why, even just showing up online, even if you have one person listening or whatever, or watching or whatever, like, the beautiful thing about social media is that we can document our life, and we can put these thoughts and things in places. And, maybe in the future, wherever YouTube may be or this podcast may be, 60-year-old me can look back and see where I am. And I'm excited to see who I am when I'm 60. And I know that that version is definitely cheering me on, because she did a lot of work to get here today. So let's get into these 9 lessons for 29 years of life. This first lesson is going to be pretty obvious. It is, you have to get comfortable with change and when you are being redirected. And that is something I really had to get comfortable with. I had a lot of loss in so many different ways this past year. I lost a friend of mine to her battle with depression. I lost a relationship twice. I went through friendship breakups or friendship shifts and changes. My car even got stolen. And I don't know if I talked about this in the life update episode, but my butterfly doormat at the front door got stolen, back in March. And by that point, all of the things that I had gone through, I was like, you know what? Take my butterfly doormat at this point. I haven't even replaced it because I'm just like, who cares? Whatever. Like, I feel like had that happened to me, a year ago, I would have been so like hurt and victim and all of these things. But I was just like, so be it. They took the butterfly doormat. Okay. The car, if they take the car again, I'm going to be like, all right, she's gone. At first it was just more of a shock. Like, I just never had that happen and I didn't know what to do. And I was going through an emotional time, right? Going through a breakup and all of these things that, of course, anyone would be upset by that. But I really did have to get comfortable with change. And it's definitely something I'm still getting comfortable with. Even this week, I had that realization after, I went to a wedding, and it was one of those things of like, yeah, I am single. I am alone and it's scary and it's uncomfortable. And I'm being single for the first time in 6 years because I was in 2 back-to-back relationships basically. And so I'm learning how to navigate things on my own and do things on my own. And I just had to get really comfortable with change, and it's not easy. And the more you resist it, though, the harder it gets, right? So there was kind of a point where I just had to surrender to God, to the universe, and just be like, you know what? I trust you guys. This is happening for a reason. I'm being redirected for a reason. Like, I'm going to get these emotions out about it, but I know that there's a larger plan at play. And, from that uncomfortable change does come things that you didn't even realize, right? I saw a TikTok about this where she said, when you get to that point where you realize that everything did have to happen in order to get to where you are now. And that's one of the biggest lessons I feel like I learned this year, was that change is inevitable. And when you get too comfortable, you need to be challenged and you need to be pushed. And sometimes it's going to be really hard, but it's for your greater good, essentially. The next lesson is your relationship with yourself is the most important one. Be yourself and be authentic. And this was definitely a big lesson I had to learn. This was definitely a year of overcoming my own people pleasing and checking my own people pleasing. And a lot of that did happen in my romantic relationship. I obviously loved this person so much, and it was nothing on him. It was more so I felt that I needed to shift and change and be who I wasn't in order to hopefully be loved, even though he loved me regardless. It's just one of those things that I really struggled with. And even too, I feel like I people pleased online and molded myself to fit whatever would get me the more views or the more followers and all of that. So I really feel like I've just been shedding a lot of who I thought I needed to be in order to be loved, in order to be validated, in order to be respected, in order to gain followers or like whatever. And like, it's funny when you start to be your authentic and goofy self, that does attract the right people, right? So it's definitely something I have learned a lot in, and I do owe a lot of that to being sober. Even though I have introduced alcohol back into my life, my sober journey, being alcohol free, definitely allowed me to have a better relationship with myself and really accept myself and love myself wholly. And really just allow myself to be okay with who I was, because alcohol tend to bring out a version of me that wasn't necessarily me, right? And then on the flip side, I do feel that my relationship with myself has just grown so much. And that came from not being in a relationship where I was just overpouring myself. And I do feel that I've really called that energy back to me. I've been taking myself out on little walks, on little dates, and treating myself and all of those things. And it really is a habit to have that relationship with yourself and to be okay alone. I live alone. I'm okay being alone. I love a Friday night in, but it's like the additional things of like doing things with yourself and doing things alone and knowing that it's okay to, even though it's really uncomfortable at first. But that's really where you can really cultivate that better relationship with yourself. And the being yourself and being authentic brings me to lesson number 3, which is you are not for everyone. You will be the villain in someone else's story. Let them. And this definitely came from a lot of things you guys did not see online that happened that I won't get into, but at the end of the day, people have their own perceptions, their own beliefs, and their own stories. And even if someone doesn't know the full picture and they make some type of judgment about you or make some type of story about you or narrative about you that isn't true, it is not your responsibility to go out there and control the whole narrative. And I really just had to come to terms with the fact that I'm not for everyone. I try my best to be a good person, and I do feel that I have a good heart and I'm a really nice person, and some people might not see it that way. And I can't go out and control all of that. And also it is up to maybe that person that if they have a problem or issue with me to come to me. I did have my own kind of things to deal with in terms of just, running away, shutting out, confrontation, things like that I've really had to work on myself and having better communication that I think I really learned this year. But at the end of the day, I will be the villain in someone's story. And I've just come to terms with that. I don't need to go around proving myself to people or pleasing myself to people just so that they believe differently about me. And I remember my friend Ashley, who is an amazing person. She works on, she's a VA. She does so many creative things, and she's actually going to fashion school. She created this shirt that said, It was like, whatever you hear about me, believe it and fuck off. Like, I'm butchering the first part, but I had to screenshot that, and I made that my background for like a week or two when a lot of things were going on, because I did feel that people were talking to everyone else but me and believing what everyone else had to say. And I kind of just had to be like, you know what? If that's what you believe, so be it. And if that's going to allow you to change your perception of me, your relationship to me, whatever it may be, then like, it is what it is, you know? And I also want to make sure this is not about my ex at all. This is just about other dynamics and things that happened. But I really do feel like at the end of the day, I know myself, I know my truth, I know what happened. And when I'm the person involved, right? Like, I know all of those things. And it's not on me to control everyone else's perception about me. And the let them theory is just let them talk about you, let them say whatever about you, let them act that way towards you. It says more about them than it does about you. And that's one of the big things that I had to learn this year. And I do think that's going to continue to serve me, because I am growing at such a scale to serve when it comes to my community and what I'm really being called to, that some people are not going to drive with it. I know not everyone drives with me and my content, and I've had to let that go a lot. The next lesson number 4, is grief is a never-ending process, as is healing. However, suffering is a choice. I dealt with a lot of grief this year, in so many different ways, just from a lot of loss that I had. Like I said, I experienced a death of a friend. I experienced a loss of a relationship, loss of friendships, and also just grieving past versions of me, or grieving what I thought the future was going to look like. And it really is going to be a never-ending process. And Emma Capotis, she just always, sends the best voice memos. She's like, it's going to be a process, and we're here for you, and like, we're going to support you. And I don't know why I'm getting emotional saying that. I think it's because Emma like has been the best, but it is a process, and it's not going to be an overnight thing. And I think grieving is honestly just a part of life, because as you continue to get older, which is beautiful, it's a privilege to get old, we're going to experience a lot of loss. And so I think we'll always have that little bit of grief, but it's kind of like how we take care of ourselves in that grief. And that's why I say it's such a process. Like, we're always going to be grieving. We're always going to be healing as we move through this thing called life. And we just kind of have to get comfortable with it and know how to take care of ourselves through it and give ourselves grace and compassion through it. But the other flip side is that suffering is a choice. And I mean this in the kindest, absolute way possible when it comes to certain things, that suffering is a choice. We do get addicted to being a victim. We do get addicted to our own suffering. And let me just put this in the view of like a breakup, right? I see so many times on social media, girls who are still suffering from a breakup that maybe happened a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, whatever the timeline might be, which I totally honor that for their journey. However, there's a certain point where there's no acceptance really happening. Like, they're not allowing themselves to accept the reality that is, because they're still missing that ex. They're still wanting that person back. They're still wanting that future with them, whatever it may be. And that's just causing them to suffer more by being stuck in that loop and that reality. And so you really have to confront that suffering head on, even though it is so painful, and get to that place of acceptance. That's why there's like the, 5 stages or whatever of grief that you go through. And it is a cycle. Like, it's not really stages that it's like, oh, we've gotten to acceptance, we're done. Like, it's definitely something that I feel like is cyclical when it comes to grief and when it comes to that. And the suffering that you might be struggling with or thinking about, you can really start to think about it, at what part am I playing a part in my own suffering? Am I choosing to suffer, or kind of like distracting myself from the suffering and prolonging that suffering? And I do tend to think it's a choice. And maybe a lot of people don't agree with me on that. But at a certain point, you have to do what's best for you. And you have to actively choose to move on, even if it's painful, even if you wanted it to look different, even if you miss the person. Like, I could still be sobbing my eyes out crying and still thinking like, oh, I thought he was the one. Like I still could be there. But I was like, you know what? I have to accept that this is it now. And he's not my person, because if he were my person, like we would still be together, right? Like the way he went about these things or whatever, like he's not my person. And so that's where I really find that suffering can be a choice sometimes, because we do get caught in the stories. We do get caught in being the victim. And I haven't quite found the way to describe how to get out of it other than radical self-acceptance and choosing to move on every single day and choosing yourself. And just, it doesn't have to be drastic change. It just can be trying 1% better to no longer suffer, if that makes any sense. And I think the little note I had under this is that there's always a different way of looking at things, right? Like if you keep repeating the same story of like, I thought he was the one and blah, 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 you know, switching that to, well, he broke up with me, so therefore he's not my person, because my person wouldn't break up with me, which means I haven't met my person yet, which means my person's probably still out there. So there's always that other way of looking at things. And sometimes there might be no way of looking at things. There might be no explanation, especially with certain deaths that happen. But when it comes to, you know, losing a job or losing a relationship, losing friendships, like any loss like that, there is always probably another way of looking at things and thinking this could be for the better. The next lesson we have is to give yourself more credit and grace. Life is hard, and each day is a new experience in this new version of you. And I definitely learned this a lot. Like all of my friends just tell me all the freaking time, Aid, stop being hard on yourself. Aid, give yourself more credit. Aid, give yourself some compassion. And I definitely had to practice that a lot. And I'm very self-critical and very hard on myself. And one of the thoughts that I had is this past year was that every day, like if we treated every day like a brand new day, right? Like the 24-hour clock has started and we just have the past to learn from and the future hasn't happened really yet. Ideally, like we're experiencing this day never before. Like I am experiencing May 9th, 2024 for the first time ever and the only time ever. So I can do the best I can to get through this day based off what I've gone through the past days, but it's still an entirely new day. And also life is just really hard and the world is really hard. And, you know, a lot of us are growing up in a time where there's a lot of uncertainty. There's war going on. There's all of these crazy things going on in the world. We're doing the best we can, you know, and that best is good enough. And I think a lot of us are no longer identifying with hustle culture, which I think is amazing. And we're deciding that we can look at things a different way. And that we don't need to be go, go, go. And sometimes us just surviving the day was good enough. There's this little meme I see all the time. It's like, congrats, girl boss, you survived the day. And honestly, we just need to celebrate that. We made it through the day. We're doing the best we can. And our best is always good enough. Number 6 is going to be trust the process and trust God. I definitely have gotten closer to God in my faith, and I still am kind of in conflict as to how to really share this a lot more, because I feel that in the rave and festival community and whatever, right, God is not present for a lot of people. And that could be from, you know, religious experiences that you had and things like that. I grew up Catholic, but I didn't grow up in a super strict like Catholic household, like, you know, that kind of thing. But I've always had a connection to God that I don't really see confined to a church or a religion. And that's why it's been this like religious, spiritual kind of thing that I'm in, which might confuse a lot of people, because it's like, you know, a lot of religions kind of bash astrology or tarot or like spirituality kind of thinking, new age thinking, whatever it may be. But then also there's like the other side of God too. So it's one of those things I'm still kind of like deciding and figuring out for myself, because I don't really see myself in any label of things. But I have been going to church and I have been really enjoying it, a non-denominational Christian church. And you know, I do find benefit from those learnings and those teachings. And I do feel like my relationship and my faith with God and the universe and whatever has gotten stronger. And that has come from just trusting I used to deal with a lot of anxiety growing up, believe it or not. I never got diagnosed, but I could tell I had like high performing anxiety where I just was like performing in hopes that it changed something about the future, right? Because I was so stressed and worried about the future. And honestly, now I don't even worry about the future. I kind of just have this deep knowing and trust that everything that's happened this past year had to happen for a reason, and there's a greater plan at play, and I just have to trust it, and sometimes you just gotta detach and just trust and keep doing the best you can and just kind of see where that takes you. And that brings me to number 7, is that everything always works out. And this was another quote I saw going around social media where it's like, you're either in the middle of going through it or you're out on the other side. Like, we're always just either in these two things. We're either like going through something that's really tough, or we're out on the other side and just kind of enjoying life. But either way, things are just always working out and you're always going to be okay. I think that is something that is always hard to remember, is that everything is always going to work out and you're going to be okay, like no matter what. And I think just kind of releasing that and affirming that for yourself of like, you know what, it's going to work out. It's going to get figured out. Everything will be okay. And I think that also ties into that trust and faith with God or the universe, whatever you believe in, right? No, just knowing that you are supported and you are loved and you are enough and it's going to work out. And I think that was definitely something that came through a lot this year for me. Lesson number 8. Do it for the plot. You're the main character. This is a bit more of a fun lesson. I think I needed to have a fun lesson in here because I have had some fun and I think I needed to have some fun. And yes, I went back to drinking and I think that just allowed me to kind of ease up a little bit. And I've had some fun nights and I was a little hard on myself, and my friends were like, Aid, you literally went so long, not doing these things for yourself. And even, it wasn't that I was necessarily sheltered in my last relationship. It was more so we didn't go out and do fun things. And this was before the first breakup happened. But during our second round of the relationship, I developed my chronic health problems. So I wasn't able to go out. So I think I kind of needed a little bit of some release and some fun and whatever. And life is too short, right? When I'm 60 years old, she's probably going to be like, girl, you should have gone out more, So that's been something that's been really, helpful, is doing it for the plot. You're the main character. Like I said, I feel like I'm in a new season of life, a new chapter of life. Like there's new characters, new plot lines. Like it just all feels really exciting. And I'm just really looking forward to what doing it for the plot is going to come from. And, doing it for the plot is really just kind of releasing the shoulds almost of like, oh, but I should stay in. Oh, but I should do this. Or, oh, but I should whatever, right? And it kind of just allows you to be like, you know what? Fuck it. Let's have some fun. Let's do it for the plot. Let's see what happens. It'll make a good story. Who cares, right? Life's too short, it's kind of all of those things kind of compiled together. And then you are the main character. We're all the main characters of our stories. And I think that kind of also helps to recognize that not everyone is like keeping an eye on what you're doing or cares about what you're doing. Like, yes, I talked about that earlier, that like I might be the villain in other people's story, but like I'm a small little blimp in those stories. Otherwise, those people are focused on themselves. We're all just main characters in our own story. So unless you are causing harm or whatever to other people, like who cares what they think? Post on social media, go after that job you want, start a side hustle, start that business you've been thinking about. Just do it. Go for it. You only have this one life, so you might as well do it and you might as well go for it. And then the final lesson that we have is life is too short to not appreciate every little moment. Let me repeat that one. Life is too short to not appreciate every little moment. You're really only this age and this version of you for this moment of time. So it's really important for you to be present with yourself and what you're experiencing. It's that one saying when we were like 15, we couldn't wait to be 20 or whatever. And then we get to 20, we can't wait to be this age or whatever. So it's really important to recognize like you are experiencing this version of you right now. So you might as well be present and enjoy this version of you while you can. Because as we tend to get older, we get more serious and things get more hard and tough and whatever it may be. So it's really just important to appreciate these little moments that you have, and even not wait until the weekend, not wait until the next thing, not wait until the festival. Like you can choose to enjoy the day that you have today. Maybe you find a new artist to listen to while you're at work. Maybe you take a new route to work. Maybe you try a new little coffee shop and spend $8 on that coffee, because who cares? Money will come back. And I think it's just important to take notice of those things and recognize that life really is beautiful when you take that moment to like look up at the sky, go for a walk, be in nature, and just realize how abundant and rich and amazing life can really be. And the other part to this is like not questioning when you feel good or happy, and just be present in it. In the month of April, I experienced so much joy and happiness. And for once, I did not feel stressed about anything. Like I didn't have anything weighing on me for the first time in a long time. And I just was like, you know what? I'm just going to be present in it. I'm not going to question it. I'm not going to get anxious over it. I'm not going to allow my brain to create new problems to solve. I'm just going to enjoy this now. And when I really allowed myself to do that, it was just very nice and comforting, and it was really helpful for me to do. And so I really want you to just recognize that life is too short, and you really only get this one life, and you have to live it up. And another part to this is really just allowing yourself to just exist and enjoy life sometimes. And I think that goes against the hustle culture that you have to be working, you have to be grinding, you have to be pushing yourself forward, taking all of those goals. Like sometimes you can just exist and vibe and enjoy life, and that's fine. My coaching business right now is a little bit at a standstill. I do have some coaching clients right now, and I'm going to start promoting again, but I'm kind of in this place of like, you know what? I'm just vibing in my business. I'm just vibing, creating content. Like I'm not really chasing after anything. All the festivals I'm going to this year, I'm going to for fun. Like I don't want to work. There's only one festival I might work at this year. And I'm looking forward to the next year where it's like, okay, I'm going to focus down and, you know, whatever. But I think I need to give myself this year to have fun, do it for the plot, appreciate and enjoy every little moment, and just see what comes through. You know, even when you relax and exist, that's when your best ideas or downloads come through, from resting and from enjoying. It doesn't come from, all right, I'm going to sit here and think about my next download, my next best business idea. Like it really does come from living and enjoying your life and connecting with people and meeting people, like going out and doing things. Like you never know, you might meet the love of your life, or you might meet your next business partner. You might meet your best friend, right? That you've been praying for. So all in all, go live it up. Go live it up and be present and just enjoy life and be love and do all the things with love. And that's all I really have for you today. And I'm really glad I did this, because going through all of these things, I'm thinking of specific moments from this past year, and I'm just feeling grateful. Oh my God, I'm getting emotional again. But I am feeling really grateful. It was a tough year. And if I could go back to 28-year-old version of me as she was turning 28, I would just give her a big hug. And even, you know, through all of those tough moments that I had this past year, I would just go back and give her those hugs as well. So I am going to end this in the best way I know how. I'm going to pull some affirmation cards. I haven't done this on the podcast yet with like the new kind of chapter and season yet. Maybe we'll keep them, but I'm going to pull my birthday cards with you guys, and we will wrap up this episode. Oh, okay. I also grabbed tarot, so that way I could do that after this, but let's pull an affirmation. Obviously, if you are also celebrating a birthday, happy birthday if you're a Taurus. Also, I will shout out my Geminis, because it is still a May baby. I'm just kidding. I love you guys. Geminis, they're cool people, creative, social butterflies, whatever. But yeah, my Tauruses, love you guys. These could also resonate for you. Also, if this affirmation happens to resonate for you, take it or leave it. But affirmation for my 29th birthday, for this 29th trip around the sun, and whoever might need this message as well. Ooh. When I'm patient, I let the universe do for me what I cannot do for myself. Universe is telling me to be patient and to just like relax. Honestly, that's basically telling me to chill out for your 29th birthday, for this 29th trip around the sun. All right, let's do note from your higher self for my, oh, you guys, I can't. That was quick, and it's also a word that I just so deeply identify with right now. You are incredibly resilient. Remember that time you thought you could never survive? You did, and you could do it again. You're going to make me cry, higher self, because that is very true. I don't know my tarot cards by heart, so I'm going to have to look this up after the fact. I don't know my tarot by heart, but let's see. Four of Wands, which is usually celebration. Oh, you guys, I know we're kind of like, I don't know if I believe in the cards, but like the cards, my clients, and if any of my coaching clients are watching, the cards are pretty on point, but I'm pretty sure Four of Wands is like celebration. Also, this is a really pretty deck as well, but thank you guys so much for tuning in, celebrating my birthday with me. I'm really glad I got to do this. And just, again, thank you for all of the support. I know my content has just been all over the place in comparison to a lot of other content creators who are so consistent and able to show up and do the thing over and over again. But I'm really grateful for the community that I've had that just allowed me to be human and allowed me to just go through what I was going through, and the fact that you guys still stuck around means a lot. And I truly mean it when like this is just the beginning, and I have a lot of exciting things to come, and I'm just excited to share them all with you. So thank you again for being here. Thank you for listening. If you did enjoy today's episode, don't forget to rate, review, subscribe. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that subscribe button to vibe with me. I love you guys, and I will see you in the next one. Stay vibey fam. Bye.